I went looking for an audience and instead I found a crisis. If you're new here, my name is Jodi Brown, and at 62 years of age, I decided to use my skills, my resources, and all of my learned experiences to try and redesign my life in a way that was much more sustainable. This is episode 3 of Starting Over at 62, my one-year experiment. Last week I talked about how I got jump-started with this business, and I suggest that you go back and look at it. And I want to make sure that I'm abundantly clear with everybody here. I am sharing how I redesigned my life in the form of social media. I want to make sure that there are some people who may be wanting to do the same thing, but the story that I'm trying to intimate and bring along to you is how I made decisions to do what I'm doing, and how you can take my process as we go through this whole series of making decisions and looking at your assets, adding to what you have instead of not looking at what you instead of ignoring what you do already have. There's a whole process that's coming, and I want to make sure that those of you who are tuned in early here don't think that this just is me teaching you how to have a social media business, because it's not. It is much deeper than that, and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page as we move forward. So the one thing I did not get hung up on is getting stuck in perfection before I started. I did a lot of research, don't get me wrong. I tried a lot of stuff and I looked at my circumstances. I did try and get as close to the target as I could, but we all end up getting caught in perfection if we wait too long. And so I decided I was going to start before I physically felt ready, like before I was ready to do it. I had done the research, and when you get stuck in perfection, it's just an excuse to procrastinate. That's all I got to say about that, because I am, raising my hand. Anyway, I had a friend who is a social media manager for a large international company. We met in the wellness space, and we started talking about how I was going to use some of my old content from when I was in the wellness space to try and attract women of my age, because a lot of the threads were very similar from one place to the other about how we care for ourselves and aging and all those things. And she encouraged me to just start with some cooking videos. She said, everybody loves your food. It's so beautiful. Just start with some cooking videos. People share that. That'll get your momentum going. Just start doing that. And so I took her advice and I did. And I started doing some cooking videos. I was living in a very small space. I was living in a coach-style RV, big bus, big, huge, like tour bus, but it was small for a gal like me who used to be a professional chef. And I started recording videos and doing some of that work, and then I did a lot of pet sitting. I had a friend that had a big house, big, beautiful, spectacular kitchen, and I'd pet sit for her, and then I'd go there and I'd make a whole bunch of videos at once, and I got new camera and equipment and, started doing all this stuff over a 6-week period. I put my head down and started working hard. And then one day when I was at the big house where I was making all these videos, I just walked out in the backyard and I'm like, I don't know what you guys are doing, but I got to put together a better plan for my housing, because, my life's a little disrupted, and I've always had this fantasy about having a tiny house community for women, which was absolutely true. My goal was to buy a small piece of land, put up a couple of concrete slabs for 6 or 8 women to come and park their tiny houses. We'd have vegetable gardens, and we could help each other age. That was my fantasy, and I shared it, and I said, what's your fantasy? What are your plans? What are you going to do? Well, that shit blew up like crazy. Millions of views in short order. And I dove into the comments. And I started looking at what everybody was saying in the comments section. I got very actively involved in there. I had like 3 18-hour days where I just was like in there and responding to everybody. And what I found was a crisis. I had started in food mode. That's how I had got started moving forward. And then I realized there were all these women out there just like me, struggling with all the same things. And none of us had a voice. We were all concerned. Many of us single by choice, some by divorce, aging, didn't want to bother our kids if we had them, or the kids lived someplace else. I want them to have their own lives. Like, we were single and autonomous and trying to figure out, what the hell are we going to do? And so that shifted what I had started with. And so I had put a plan together of what I thought, and a lot of this fit into my plan, but how I started and where I ended up were two entirely different things. And that's the point I want to make here, is that sometimes perfection kills possibility. And I don't want you to think that you don't have it all figured out so you can't start, whatever it is for you. And so I'm here to encourage you to think a little bit outside the box like I did, do some research, put a plan together, but understand that good businesses succeed because people detect and correct. You can't hit a wall and then figure, oh, I'm just going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You got to be able to go, okay, here I am. What am I going to do? Let me work with what I've got and move forward. So what I have thus been able to do is to stay engaged with all of my followers. I read every single comment, every comment. I respond to every comment. I can't do that forever, for sure. I mean, that's in and of itself is not sustainable. But if you listen to your people and don't just be a talking head, and that's in any business, you know, if you're going to start a little side hustle, maybe you're going to be a little a chef for somebody in your neighborhood, and you want to figure out how you can maybe work 20 hours a week, maybe helping a family. You know, start talking to people and asking them what they need. How can you connect? What can you do to help them with their problem? Every business solves a problem for somebody else, right? Every business. And so if you're trying to figure out how at this big age in our lives we're going to be able to move forward with some sort of way to earn income, you have to start thinking a little bit differently than you have in the past, and do your research a little bit differently. Reach out to people who are struggling with your issue. Get online, ask questions. Hey, can you refer me to somebody that might be able to help me with this? I'm trying to get my foot in the door doing this. And then put a plan to get your foot in the door and be ready for maybe a change that might come. Or I know a lot of times when I used to be a professional organizer, I would start working with people in their businesses. I did that back in the early 2000s, where I would go into their businesses and I would help them structure their systems. This is way before we had computers doing what they're doing now, but filing systems that worked for them, and the flow of process, all that stuff. I did all that stuff. And then once I gained their confidence in my ability to take care of them and really care about what they were doing, then they started asking me, hey, can you come to my house and help me with this? Or I'm a little embarrassed to say, I don't know how to do this. Can you maybe show me? Do you know how to do this? Or point me to somebody who can help me? Earning people's trust and confidence leads to a lot of new avenues for you. You've got to get your foot in the door with whatever it is that you're doing. I just am fortunate enough that what I'm talking about right now doesn't just resonate with me, it resonates with a lot of people. And so I'm living my experience out loud and sharing it because there are so many other people in the same boat as me. And so I think that for many of us out there, you can get your foot into a business lane of your liking, of your interest, of something that juices you up and makes you excited. I love solving problems for other people. That's my jam. But there's something that you do that you can also take this kind of mindset and build it forward for a business that will work for you. We're going to talk more about this as the weeks go forward, but I want you to know I started out kind of feeling like I had one arm tied behind my back and a blindfold on because I wasn't 100% sure which direction I was moving in. But once I started moving, momentum became my friend, and then the universe opened up and provided me with a bunch of people who needed what I have, which is a way to help people go through and make decisions based on concrete information and not a bunch of airy-fairy shit that doesn't matter. And so I am going to build this process out over the course of the next several weeks, and I hope that you'll stick around and join me. I find personally for me the best way that I can record is through storytelling, is to take an example and share parts of my life and how that worked for me. And so there's going to be a lot more sharing coming of a variety of different things that have happened for me and to me that help shape who I am, so that you can seek out similar circumstances in your life to help move you forward. If this resonated with you, please share it with somebody who need to hear it, and hit the like, follow, and notification bell if there is one for the platform you're watching this on. You can also support this work by buying me a cup of coffee. There's a link below for you to do that if you're so inclined. I am Jodi Brown. I'm old, bold, and I'm not dead yet. See you next week. Peace out. I'm loving you from here.